Welcome to Behind the Production with E2I for the first ever Behind the Production show, where we are joined with Church of the Highlands today. We're super excited about it. Behind the Production is a show that takes you behind the scenes of some of the top churches here in the country to give you the ins and the outs, and most importantly, the why behind what it is that they do and everything that we do as ministry techs. If we're meeting for the first time, my name is Chris Pyron, and I am joined by Mr. Jordan McMillian. Jordan, how we doing, man?
We are doing absolutely wonderful right now.
Awesome, man.
So excited to be here and have these guys and have our team. It's going to be a really, really cool event. So super excited to be here.
And I'm super pumped as well. So Jordan and I are part of the team here at E2I Design. And as you saw in that video with the tagline there at the end, uniquely you, our team loves to come up with new and creative ideas to help you and your ministry be more effective in everything that you guys do. And here we're also passionate about bringing together, the worship community to add value and share ideas together. We love doing events and getting to connect with you guys, whether it's on a live stream like this or in person. In fact, we have a ton of events coming up here later throughout the year. So stick with us to the end of the live stream, where we'll be highlighting some of those events and where you can find us. And hopefully we can connect in person out on the road there later on this year. So as I mentioned earlier, today we are joined by the central production team from Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama. No question, one of the most influential churches here in the U.S. right now is the way that they leverage audio or leverage technology across all 25 of their campuses. And they're crushing it when it comes to the audio, lighting, and video world. So we're going to be chatting with them about their approach to production and all things that go into pulling off a weekend there. If you do have questions for them, by all means, please drop them in the chat. If you happen to be watching on the replay, go ahead and drop them in the comments anyway. We're going to be keeping an eye on those and trying to get back in touch with everybody if you have questions on stuff for that. So today we have with us Mr. Griffin Cravey, we have Jeremiah Allen, and we have Stephen Early, but we're going to call him Sturley today. So Sturley, thanks for being here. Guys, thanks so much. We're super pumped to have you guys here. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So
absolutely.
So tell us just a little bit about each of your roles with Highlands. Griff, let's start with you. What's your role and a little bit of your backstory?
Yeah, so my name is Griffin, if we haven't had the pleasure to meet. My title here at Highlands is the broadcast lighting director. which we essentially break up production into a central broadcast team that is in charge of broadcasting from our main location to our campuses, to the World Wide Web, wherever it may go online. And then we have campus support, which is tech guys who are either supporting or running the campuses spread across all over the state of Alabama. And then we have one location in Georgia. A little bit of my backstory: when I originally came on staff here at Highlands, I was more on that central campus team as a central lighting assistant, which kind of in the non-church world would just come down to a tech, just a guy traveling to fix gear, working with volunteers on the weekend, helping them through different issues they may have at their campus, or even just going out and kind of being the representative of the staff side of production to campuses, meeting them, getting to talk with them, things like that. Then about 2 years ago, ended up stepping into what I'm in now, which is the broadcast lighting director. So responsible for all things service related from a lighting standpoint here at Grants Mill in Birmingham, where our main campus is located at.
Awesome. Very cool. That's great, man. Awesome. Jeremiah, how about you, man? What's your role there?
So my role now is broadcast lighting technician, and I help with Griffin on overseeing all of our fixture and lighting maintenance. And then I help take care of our rigging at our broadcast location only. Before that, I was taking care of our central lighting for all of our campuses, making sure that their trusses are built right for campuses and servicing all of their gear whenever it needed to be serviced. Before Highlands, I did mostly theater stuff for the high school and stuff like that. Came into Highlands College and got hired after my first year into that. So some backstory.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Love that. Awesome. And Sterling, what about you, man? What's your role there and a little bit of your backstory?
Yeah, I'm our live video director. So during services, I handle cameras, pushing a lot of buttons. And then I'm also calling all the transitions during services, talking with Griffin on comm a lot, making any adjustments we need to make. And then during the week, I manage our volunteer team. So we have, I think, between 70 and 80 volunteers at our broadcast campus, between our main auditorium and then our chapel, which is a more stripped down, more acoustic service. So I help manage them, care for them, love on them, get them through our development process, which is just training, a fancy word for training around here, helping them get on the team. So yeah, before that, I've been doing this for 5 years as a video director and been on staff for 7 years. So I've had a few different roles on the team.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. That's great. Well, let's jump into this a little bit. So obviously, technology in the church is huge right now, and we know that takes a lot of people to make it happen. I mean, you guys are just three faces of the huge team that you guys have there at Highlands. So, Griff, you mentioned this earlier about the central production team. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown of the team, kind of how it's structured, and then how you guys from the central campus support the other campuses?
Yeah, and I'll let Jeremiah and Sterling, y'all hop in anytime you want. But so about a year ago, production actually moved under our worship team here at Highlands. So as a team that is interacting with the worship team often, when you think of worship, you think of the musicians, the instrumentalists, the singers, whoever. So we were networking with them a lot for services and things like that. We were working with them often, but we were two separate teams, staff teams within the church. So about a year ago, we kind of made a shift organizationally where we are actually now on the worship team. So now our worship team is made up of music and production. And so we made that shift about a year ago as a organization, but within production, basically the way it's broken down is we have a central team, a campus team, and a broadcast team. Broadcast kind of being an extension of the central team. So central would be people who are probably Birmingham based, who are either maybe working on gear, they're training teams, they're training team members, whether that's staff or volunteer, fixing gear, ordering gear, kind of the logistical side of being a multi-site church. And then kind of the extension of Central is all of us who are on the call today, which are broadcast, which is a team of 7 who make sure basically all the services at Grants Mill run smoothly. That's from a video standpoint, a lighting standpoint, and a actual streaming standpoint, to make sure that we can run the gear, fix the gear, and get the message out both to our campuses and online. And then that campus is that kind of little third piece of the puzzle where we have two types of buildings. We have like hybrid portable systems where we might be in essentially just a building we don't own. Could be a school, could be a gymnasium, could be a civic center, whatever it may be. These are kind of our first versions of a campus in a city. And so that's a setup takedown, and that varies. It could be set up and take down all the gear, could be a lighting truss stays flown in the ceiling during the week. There's kind of different variations, and we work with different groups and different locations on that variation. But essentially, we're going to have two types of systems, that portable system and then a permanent system. Permanent is going to be a building we either, built from the ground up, bought and renovated, whatever it may be. At these permanent locations, it's a production staff member, just like we are, who are responsible for the heartbeat of that team. So running services on the weekend with them, training up team members, being in those campus meetings where they're kind of making campus level decisions of worship sets and flow and things like that. And then usually it's also going to be a part-time employee that we hire at those portable locations, because it's not a church all week. It's, during the week it's a school or whatever it is. So we still like to have someone there, a constant face to kind of steward that team. But at the same time, they're not, having services, or they're not in meetings all week like a permanent location, more of a church, a local church staff would be. So that's kind of a quick breakdown. If Jeremiah or Sterling, you guys want to add anything?
I think that covers it.
I think that covers
it. You did it, knocked it out. Okay, cool. So that's great. That's super cool. One of the things I would love for you to share, obviously you can't have, all paid staff around all the time. So I know you guys leverage a lot of volunteers. Can you talk to me a little bit about the structure of how, you guys have the central team there, and then you have one technical director per campus then? And then are they then running the team of volunteers there? Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of the volunteer recruitment and development training process that you guys have for them?
Certainly, it's perfect for you.
Yeah. So at all of our campuses, there's a production director. And so they're responsible for helping the onboarding process. We have a class every Sunday called Growth Track, where people can join the team, whether it's the greeter team, the worship team, the hospitality team, or the production team. And so once you join the production team, you start our development process, which at most campuses is on Thursday nights. And it goes along at the same time as the band. So the band will hit a few songs, and after going through a quick 2-song set, they'll take a few minute break and break down, everything that they did, do some coaching, and then the production team does the same thing. So while they're running it, we've got someone training on song lyrics, and they'll run 2 songs of song lyrics, and during that break, we'll have coaches at each campus, they're volunteers, giving feedback of like, hey, let's maybe speed it up, or when we're going into the bridge, let's make sure we use a hotkey to get there faster, whatever it might be. And we've got that available for every position. So audio, lighting, technical director, lyrics, whatever position at every campus they have. And then what was the rest of the question? I'm sorry, I totally forgot.
No, just kind of the structure, and then kind of that training process. I think you absolutely nailed it. Yeah.
So then the structure of the team, you've got your staff member at each campus, whether full-time or part-time, and then under them they've got a group of volunteers that are high-level volunteers that are have been involved for a while, or just really show a passion for wanting to go above and beyond. And a lot of times we'll have those be on what we like to call like a lead team, and they can help with anything from every other Sunday they're the one running services, or it could be that they're the prayer captain, or they're the connect leader, or whatever it might be. Because like I said, at this campus, we've got between 70 and 80 volunteers. And so during the week, like I can't keep up with that many people. So I've got a team of people under me that are assigned a group of people, between 10 people per person, where, during the week they're shooting a text like, hey Griffin, how you doing? On last Sunday you served, you had a prayer request for so-and-so, just wanted to follow up, see what's going on with that. How are things? And we found that that was really important with keeping the team engaged during the season of COVID, especially at the campuses where we weren't having any services. So it really helped keep people feeling like there was some community, even though we weren't meeting every single week.
Man, 100%. That is great. I love hearing that. It's so important that, you know, we can get so focused in on the tasks that we have to pull off every week, and making sure that we've got people scheduled that, you know, still checking in on each other is huge, you know, and, you know, not just training people to do a job, but then also making sure that spiritually they're, you know, being ministered to and taken care of there as well, which is great. I love hearing that. That's awesome. So we're halfway through March. Easter's coming up. And Griff, I know you and I talked about this a little bit earlier. Talk to us a little bit about, you know, kind of the process that it takes to get ready for something like an Easter or Christmas. I know, you know, this past year has been weird for everybody, right? Talk a little bit about this Easter. What have you guys done to prep for that? And when did you start the prep process? Did you start it, you know, last week, or did you start thinking about that, you know, a little bit earlier?
Yeah, so for us, the way kind of the process will begin is kind of a pitch time. So that happens on a lot of different levels. That happens on a lead team and on a Pastor Chris, our senior pastor level, where we're always wanting to fit the vision of leadership. So as a church, what is our vision? For a service, what is our vision? So like, let's take Easter, for example. What's the vision for Easter? What are we trying to do? What's the message going to say? Because it should be one experience. Worship should lead into the message. Message should lead into worship. So it shouldn't feel like two different ideas butting together. It should feel like one constant idea that is building on itself. So we kind of enter into a pitch season to begin with, I'll call it, where ideas start to get made, maybe not even ideas stemming around Easter. Maybe it's a cool video somebody saw from the Grammys the other night, or maybe it's a lighting design of, you know, some Broadway show they've been to, or maybe it's even something like architecture or something like that. We'll just start kind of pitching ideas around songs that we have already worked on. So kind of the music side of the worship team, normally at this point, like currently today, has already worked on mastering kind of the two special elements, moments, songs that we're going to have this year. And so they'll kind of work on pitching that, getting that mastered, and then we kind of move into that more production realm of thinking, where we start thinking about what is the song saying, what is the mood. We'll sit down with some of our graphic designers, some of our actual worship, you know, motion graphic designers for the main stage, for the LED wall, and we'll all kind of sit down and start dreaming, kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. And that's usually kind of in small pockets of people. That's not like, you know, big meetings where nobody wants to talk. That's kind of in smaller settings where people feel like they're heard and they feel like they can, you know, bring ideas to the table, and ideas that may work, ideas that may not work, an idea that might, you know, conjure up another idea. So we'll kind of move from the pitch phase then into a rehearsal phase, where we'll start to kind of, you know, maybe storyboard an idea, start to actually look at it on stage, block out where it would actually happen, things like that. Almost kind of as Jeremiah mentioned, being from a theatrical background, it reminds me of also myself in high school, theatrical background, kind of starting to look at it in the space. Does it make sense? Does it work? Can we do it? Can we pull it off in the time allotted? And then from there, we'll move into rehearsals. We'll always kind of have, usually depending on the service, Christmas you could probably double everything, but for something like an Easter, we'll probably have one or two just kind of midweek rehearsals, and then closer to the end of the week, we'll have a big, basically dress rehearsal where we will run things top to bottom, basically everything except for the message itself, to make sure that we have transitions down, to make sure that we have, you know, songs down, lighting designs down, video content lined up and symptied and all that kind of stuff. And then from there, we move into the weekend of the service. And so for us, as far as timeline goes, that's kind of fluid based off of when ideas first form. Like realistically speaking, for Easter, like right now, Sterling and I were actually in one of the first kind of pitch meetings for the starts of ideas this week, actually. So we kind of take it and we kind of all take our own separate approach to it and think through it and mull on it. And we'll kind of meet back up usually at the end of the week or the start of like the following week after a pitch meeting, and kind of, you know, where's everybody gotten? Has anybody come up with new ideas? And from there, we'll kind of take it and form it and mold it into what it's going to be.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So with all of these different, you know, teams and parts of the teams working together, what's the coordination process like? Is it just everybody piles into a room and you guys just duke it out and work through it, or what are some of the communication tools that you guys use around there between the teams?
Yeah, it can be that way at moments. It'll kind of change, and I'd be interested to know what Sterling and Jeremiah think. It'll kind of take moments where it'll take on different forms. We use tools like Slack, group messaging system, things like Monday.com. It's real-time updating task boards, basically. So those will kind of be used interdepartmentally, we could say, to kind of align everyone to what's happening in more of a live format. And then kind of our flow is when it's time to make, we'll call them game time decisions that are going to matter for, whatever the service is. It's usually people that are on like a director level, like the creative director, our worship director, our boss, John Larson, some of the actual physical directors themselves, like, Sterling, who would be actually cutting the cameras, Jeremiah and I, who would actually be figuring out how to make the lighting work for it. It kind of will reach that level where we'll have to make the decisions that are going to be made for the service. And then during that kind of dress rehearsal that I talked about is when we'll also kind of give ourselves one last shot to say, okay, that's just not going to work. We got to make a decision, and we just kind of got to make it now in this rehearsal. So that I don't know if that kind of answers that question. Slack and Monday.com would be two ways that we try to create communication between the team. But a lot of times we try to have very open offices and office spaces and office communication where we'll just kind of, if I need to talk to, one of the worship guys about the track isn't working, I'll usually just go find him in the office and be like, hey, track 3 is not working for me, or, whatever. We'll kind of try to have open communication about it.
Sure. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So that handles the interdepartmental, I guess, the inside, communication piece. When it comes to scheduling your team and your volunteers, what do you guys use for that? Is it like a planning center thing, or what's the tool you guys use there?
Yeah, we use Planning Center for everything.
Okay.
And I see Tristan's question, which I assume that you're pulling from it. Shout out to Tristan. Tristan is actually one of our Highlands College students that's now at Stevens Creek Church in Augusta. So shout out to you.
What up, Tristan?
He did abandon us early. He ended up getting hired after his first semester, so we'll forgive him for that. But yeah, we use Planning Center, and we really don't have like a A/B team. Like, it's not, 1 week it's the same group, the next week it's a different group. I just honestly put everything into a spreadsheet, and I know I've got some camera operators that are stronger than others, and so I try to have like I try to have someone that's a really great tight follow, someone that we have one of our cameras, our camera 3. It's our worship leader shot. You can be a little more green camera operator there. I could pull in someone that's got less experience and put them on that camera, since they're not having to be as creative. They're not having to, during the message, we're not using that camera. So they don't have to do a tight follow or anything tricky like that. So we really don't have a A/B team. I try to schedule, honestly, to have a good product, but also create community. There are some people that I know. We've got one guy on our team. His name is Rich. He's I'll say it, he's one of my favorite volunteers, not because he's the best camera operator, just because he's just an amazing human being. And we actually have an award on our team named after him. Like, he's that awesome. And I like to schedule him with a lot of the younger guys on our team, some of the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, because I know that Rich brings so much to the table and can invest so much into them, that I try to schedule intentionally, with even things like that of like, Rich is going to be able to pour into this student that when he's not serving camera, he's attending our youth group, so I try to do things like that when scheduling.
Very cool. Very cool. Build stacking the teams the right way and getting those with more experience in with those who are still coming up through the ranks. That's super cool.
It's one of those things where at the end of the day, we obviously have to have a great product, but it's ministry at the same time, and not just ministry to the people that are sitting in the auditorium. We are worshiping as well. So, just try to, create ministry, and even in the green room. So kind of my thoughts behind all of it.
That's so great. That's awesome. I love that. So I know that you guys, I mentioned earlier, 20, I said 25 campuses when we started, and I believe that number is right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I?
Yes.
I've lost count.
Okay.
we
Somewhere
lost
between
count.
20 and 25.
It's between 20 and 25.
Okay. I counted 24 physical plus online because I know online campus has always been a big thing for you guys.
Yeah.
And I know that video has been a big thing for Highlands. So I know a lot of other churches over the past 12 months, have had to make some massive pivots and shifts into, maybe entering into live streaming their services for the first time and trying to figure out how to do this video thing. I know it wasn't as big of a shift for you guys, but there was still a shift. I know. What was that like with moving from having your normal attendance there at the Grants Mill, Central Campus to having 20 people in the room, I guess, for the video side of things when you guys had to move that direction?
Yeah. I'll take that one first. I think that you always have to work to ensure that you're, again, matching vision, matching leadership's vision. So, and I think it's also easy in a world of social media, Instagram, Facebook, where everybody can post a photo of how great their online, feed is or what gear they have or whatever. I think it's really easy to feel like there's a great gap between. I think there were a lot of churches who thought we're so down here and all these churches are so up here. How can we ever, close the gap? And I think almost, I guess, in hopefully an uplifting way, the best way I can say it is Highlands had been online already as a church for many, many years before this. So, when all attention was shifted to online, it might appear as though, churches our size have taken all these giant leaps and steps, but really we've taken all the small steps that everybody else is now taking, maybe just at a different point in time. If it's out there, we demoed it, we tried it, whatever. And so I think the best way I can explain it is we did make some shifts, like for ourselves as an organization. Like we thought through lighting designs differently because now we're lighting only for a lens, whereas before, kind of being in the South, being deep in the heart of the Bible Belt, a lot of times on a Sunday, although we're large in size, we're not like super flashy, like especially with lighting specifically. Try to keep it very, very easy to attend, and so. Realistically speaking, like lighting, for example, was one of those things where we realized like when there's nobody in the room, we could do some things differently with lighting to make it interact with the lens in kind of a different, cool, fun way. And, with camera shots and the way we would introduce a service and, how somebody would host it, where maybe before it was literally just somebody's basically just watching along with Grants Mill, just to kind of give it a little bit more sense of interaction. But again, the overarching idea being, I think it's really easy to compare yourself to churches like Church of the Highlands and their size and their online status, but to ignore all the years they spent kind of building up to that and where they are. So the question wasn't really pitched this way from you, Chris, but I almost take it as a way to like tell somebody who's watching, like, it's okay. You can take your time. You can figure it out as you go, just like we did. And have security in that.
Man, that's awesome. Overnight success is never overnight, right?
Yeah.
It takes time to build up
and
to
it's
it.
Lots of unseen steps from here to there.
Absolutely. And you're not just going to flip a switch and have it happen overnight, for sure.
Yeah.
So, Sterling, knowing that you live in that world, do you have any additional commentary to add to that?
I think Griff covered it really well. I will say that one thing that did change for us was the phone calls we were getting. And I see it with the other guys on our staff. His name's Stephen Kirkland, who's on our central team. Like I know guys like Stephen Kirkland and a lot of the other guys on the team were getting a lot of phone calls of just like, here's the gear I have. How do I make a live stream work? And so, that just proves how important a lot of those relationships outside of your own church walls are with your peers, of anywhere from other mega churches to your small Baptist church that's got 100 members on Easter weekend. So shout out to all of those guys that were, fielding those phone calls nonstop for the first few months, and I'm sure they're still getting them. But then, kind of touch on that a little bit. I also think like during a time like COVID, where we were shut down, it really is important to have those relationships with your peers, because like it's one of those things where ministry is a tough job, especially production and ministry, and talking to peers, they're just going to understand things a whole way of like we're going through that like work-life balance. And so if you're on here and you need someone to talk to, hit up someone in the chat. We're not supposed to do ministry alone.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it's all about community, and that was one of the reasons why this Behind the Productions was kind of birthed. Was we wanted to have an opportunity to bring the house of worship community together and bring churches together to be connected. Stephen, I love your heart, man. Right here, he said, "Bro, we still get those calls, and I'm loving it. That's great. I love your willingness to help and serve those guys like that." So, well, I'm going to jump ahead here a little bit, but if guys wanted to get connected with Highlands on social, is that what's going to be the best spot to find them?
I think,
or Sterling, that's fine. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, we're on Instagram. We don't have Facebook, but we're on Instagram just as Highlands Production. If you want to reach out to us there, whether you're needing help with figuring out how to get a stream set up, or you just need a peer, someone to talk to about the struggles of day-to-day ministry or workload or whatever it is, like we would love to get you connected with one of us or one of the other guys on our team, or one of the other girls on our team. Like, let's not do this alone.
Absolutely not. I love that. So obviously we've had a lot of changes. A lot of folks have been growing and stretching themselves into new areas that they thought maybe they'd never be in, or they wouldn't be in at this stage. So what do you guys do there on the team at Highlands to continue to skill up and continue to build the three of you guys, your personal abilities and skill set, as well as helping to do continuing ed for training the volunteers, not necessarily training up a new volunteer, but somebody who like, was it Rich that you mentioned earlier? What mechanisms do you guys have in place to help, continue training for those guys?
One thing that we do is we've got our standard development process, which is on Thursday nights. It's like, you join the team and you've never touched a switcher, you've never touched a lighting console, you've never touched a camera, or maybe you have a little bit of experience. That's just the standard process we have in place to get people plugged in to the team. So it takes anywhere from 6 weeks to some people maybe 8 months, a year. It just depends on everyone's skill set. And one thing that we do have is we have a very defined list of benchmarks that you do have to hit before you can graduate into serving during a service role. And that's been really great for us, because if you've got two people that are starting development at the same time, one graduates development and starts serving way before the other one, it can help awkward conversations of like, hey, why did Griffin get to serve before I did? Like, we joined at the same time. Why am I still coming to development? You're able to say, well, like Griffin was able to go through these benchmarks, and you've still got this and this to get to learn, to figure out before we can get you into that service role. So that's how we start people on the team. But then at least for video and for cameras, we kind of pick people for extra training. We just call it advanced camera training. And when we do that, we'll just bring them in on a random night of the week, give them dinner, watch back some, we record our multi-view. So we'll watch some multi-view recordings back of some, like maybe some prime time services that were really great, had a great element, or, something that they could learn from. And then we'll go out to camera and we'll work on those and just get some reps. And we just do a couple of those. And it's amazing that with, 90 minutes of intentionality, how you can take someone from, a B or C tier level camera operator to like a Sunday morning quality, like, I say we don't do A team, B team, but, you can take them to, a top tier camera person with just 90 minutes of intentionality and a hot meal. So that's kind of how we handle it. I don't know, maybe Griffin or Jeremiah could speak into lighting a little bit.
Yeah, I would say for lighting, we're very hands on. So a lot of times for us, that looks like shadowing. We'll bring in kind of higher level dream teamers, like Sterling was talking about from a camera video perspective. We'll a lot of times bring them in for like on a Saturday, we'll feed them. We'll all attend the prayer service together, which I think is always awesome. That's kind of a cool little subtle touch, but it's a cool little touch that we're all serving all the time. We're all constantly the ones creating the product, that we will invite everybody, usually here to Birmingham, usually to the Grants Mill campus, and we'll all attend the prayer service together. And then after that, go do some training for a while, get hands-on. It'll usually be a little bit of technical and a little bit of fun. Like maybe, we'll have a contest like who can program the coolest song in 10 minutes. And then, we'll talk about, some more technical things specifically with consoles and lighting gear, and then feed them lunch, have some time to hang out. And then we'll usually normally we do a second session in the afternoon, and then we'll kind of send them on their way back to wherever they came from. And then I would say from like a personal standpoint, people are always talking about like podcasts and books and, go watch this on YouTube and go watch that. But one thing that I've learned specifically, even just in my time on staff here, is I've realized how valuable all the people around me are. Like learning video things from Sterling, like learning what he's seeing, how I can help him on camera. And like Jeremiah, if something is broken, I don't understand how, but he just knows how to fix, pretty much fill in the blank, and he can fix it. And with his rigging knowledge and just with knowledge in general on construction and things like that, of how to build sets and things like that. And so I've realized that I have such a wealth of knowledge around me that I can kind of learn from these guys that I'm working with every day. It's important to, get outside information and to see how people are doing things and how you can make yourself better. But I've realized there's a kind of a wealth of knowledge all around me that I can rely on from guys like Jeremiah and Sterling, as opposed to, maybe having to go outside of, where I am every day to kind of learn and grow, even just myself.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Well, man, we've got questions popping in all over the place. So if you guys are up for some batter's box questions, I'm going to bring Jordan back in and let him kind of run through some of that stuff with us. Jordan, you want to pop through some of these questions that we've had coming in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi guys, good to see y'all again. Let's talk about Motor City Church's question, if y'all can see that. We kind of just ran through it in terms of the training and the development and kind of graduating to that place to where we can get comfortable, and have a familiarity with everything going on, to basically have the confidence to go and run with a service. But we had a question, and I want to get through all of these and show value to these guys. So do you guys allow volunteers to run your sound for a broadcast campus? So obviously thinking about Grants Mill, right? We go through a completion stage in terms of checking boxes to have that familiarity, everything like that. Are you guys ever putting someone in the hot seat? What does that look like? Or are you, for example, a lot of times, and I know you guys do this as well, shadowing. Let's take, for example, for lighting, right? You guys have shadowing. Are you guys ever putting someone in there and shadowing them? What does that look like? How does that volunteer feel ultimately like, I got this? Because, right, when we go through this kind of thing, we're always like, if only I could just sit there for a second. I feel like I'm a more hands-on kind of person. What does that look like? I mean, it's obviously easy to be told what to do or learn through, a verbal kind of situation, but obviously we all learn differently. And I feel like as it pertains to technology, the more you put your hands on it, the more you know about it. So I'll open it up, whoever wants to answer that. I would love to hear a little bit about that.
I think for us, It stems from a heart of trying to protect volunteers. So, as opposed to staff who are in it all the time, trying to protect volunteers, what we will often do is we'll kind of start people out in less stressful situations to begin with, and then work them up from there based off of skill level, kind of like Sterling was saying with development, also how quickly they're moving through different techniques and things like that. So, we have kind of taken account of our own services and our own service environments, and we will often start people out in a less stressful situation and kind of work them up to those big A-time moments, so to speak, like a Sunday morning where it's broadcast, it's going online, it's going to, 20 plus campuses. So it's being archived. And so I'll let kind of Sterling and Jeremiah, if he wants, kind of touch on what they feel about it. But we kind of, I look at it like a ramp. We kind of start people out high level protection, low level of stress, and let them kind of step into whatever role they kind of work themselves into. Practically speaking, at the end of the day, just to answer the question flatly, from a Sunday morning perspective, pretty much every director level role, so your front of house audio engineer, your broadcast engineer, Sterling, Jeremiah, myself, pretty much all those positions are going to be full-time staff on a Sunday morning when it's kind of the go time. And then we, like I said, we'll take account of ourselves as an organization. So we have evening services. Some of our campuses have like a Monday night service. And so those are kind of real good opportunities for volunteers to step in and learn and grow and get to lead services kind of around those varying times.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Sterling, you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I guess to also bluntly answer the question, do we allow volunteers to run sound at our broadcast campus? Yes, there's no rule that says they can't, but I think Griffin put it best is, with Sunday mornings being broadcast to, so many people, we typically don't have them, especially in that audio role. We have a few volunteers on our team on video that we let run Sunday morning. That we let direct services, but when we do that, there's going to be a full-time member as a safety net, probably technical directing, hitting the buttons. That way, if they lose their marbles, they've got a safety net, someone there that can just turn on comm and immediately take over. So, do we allow it? Yes, but I don't remember the last time a volunteer in town on a Sunday morning here, but technically it can be done.
Yeah, that's great. Talking about volunteers and on the topic of volunteers, and then I've got something else I want to go into right after that, because I think it's going to be pretty valuable for you guys to weigh in on. Drew, one of our good friends, Drew, actually asked a question: how important is volunteer appreciation for you all? With how many seats you have to fill each and every week? What are some of the things you do for your volunteers? Obviously, we've got a lot of people. We've got a lot of people to work with and to appreciate, to add value to make them feel valued. Because as a church tech, you're getting there really, really early on a Sunday morning. You're staying all day. You might be staying through the entire weekend. What are some ways that you guys add value and truly just show appreciation toward your volunteers to make them feel comfortable and allow them to want to come back?
Yeah. So one way that we do it, not just for production, but for every volunteer at every campus, is we have an area called Dream Team Central. And it's a place where you can go set your jacket down, for the ladies, they can set their purse down, backpacks, whatever it might be. But then the easiest way, in my opinion, as a way to show appreciation is food. So we feed them, we'll have breakfast or dinner. We don't have lunchtime services, so we don't do lunch. But food's an easy way to do it. A lot of campuses will do outings. So like we've got a Top Golf here in Birmingham. We've even had campuses that are out of town, an hour, 2 hours away, drive up to Birmingham and take the team to Top Golf. Whitewater rafting trips. One of the guys, I don't know if he's on here watching, his name's Jackson. He's at our Grandview campus. He the church didn't pay for it, but Jackson facilitated a Disney trip. Just an overnight, pay for your own hotel room, but I'll facilitate it, plan it, everything. But you got to pay for it yourself. Quick day trip to Disney. It's not really what I consider fun, but to each their own, I guess. And then for some of the things we do for volunteers, like during COVID, we were doing a ton of recordings during the middle of the week for other pastors, for other churches that didn't have that broadcast streaming setup ready to go. We'd allow them to come in, use our stage. We'd provide camera operators, an audio engineer, everything that they needed to be able to record a service to play back on their Facebook page. So we had to lean on a lot of our camera operators during the middle of the week, which is really hard pandemic. And when you've got volunteers that have a full-time job, that have schools. So I leaned really heavily on some of our retired Dream Teamers or some of our students. A lot of the students were doing virtual school. So it was just kind of work at your own pace. And so they were available during the day a lot. And with a few of those guys, we were able to get them some gift cards, just simple ways of showing appreciation. And then for one of them, we actually got a trophy. Like it's like this big. We call it the Rich Bartelt Award. And then we actually give it out to other volunteers and they get to take it home for a week. We call it the Rich Bartelt Award, and it's awarded to Dream Teamers who go above and beyond. So just simple ways.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And I know a lot of people kind of want to know that. I know a lot of people, I think some people have maybe struggle keeping people around, and having them hang on and I feel a lot of that reason is because some ministries will unintentionally neglect the volunteers, which puts them in a position of, well, I feel frustrated. I feel like I'm not adding value. I feel like I'm not doing this, that, and the other thing. And so I just don't want to do it anymore. And so I think being extremely intentional about appreciation, teaching, education, all of these things is so key to having a successful volunteer pool. And so, I appreciate you guys in that regard. That's really cool. Griffin, you said something earlier that I wanted to hit on. And Griffin, Jeremiah, you can answer this in tandem here. You said that, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but you basically said that, during a Sunday service, we like to keep it simple, right? We like to, have high impact, high dynamic, but we like to keep it simple. You can imagine that when people look at Church of the Highlands and their stage and everything like that, we've got a pretty decent amount of technology up there, right? I mean, there's a lot of things going on and everything like that. And so one of the questions that I had is, how do you, what is the best plan, right, for you guys to say, we've got all of these tools, right? And we can all agree that everything on stage and everything that we use is a tool. It's not a solution to a problem. It's not an answer. It's not anything like this. It is a tool in order to carry out the vision of the ministry in a really dynamic way. So what are some ways that you say keeping it simple, which is absolutely and 100% true. You guys do a very good job of a high dynamic and a high impact and a really cool thing, but it doesn't mean that all of your fixtures are flashing and doing this and that and the other thing, and your LED walls throwing, strobes in and everything like this, right? You have a tool, and you're using that tool to be able to accomplish the vision of the ministry. So how do you guys do that? And how do the tools that you have make that easily possible?
Yeah, I think I'll go first, and I can let Jeremiah give his thoughts. I think that people crave comfortability. I don't think I said that right. Comfortability. People crave excellence because excellence breeds a sense of comfort. And so for us, even more than the flash and the trash and the strobes and whatever, We try to intentionally make sure that our gear is excellent, that it's well maintained, that it's used well. You know, as production minded people, a lot of times, at least I would say, I am constantly, you know, my attention is pulled away at something that I'm not doing by something that's going wrong, like a light that's got a gobo that like gets stuck every couple seconds when it spins, or, you know, somebody's got an LED wall that's got like 3 panels that are like strobing and they aren't seeming to do anything about it. And like my brain is very scattered and gets pulled easily to things like that. So looking at a service and looking how we can create a service, one thing that I like to look for is that not even that it's the best, that it's the coolest, that it's the hippest, that's the newest, but that it's excellent, that it breeds comfort, that people feel comfortable in a service. And then I think it's important to have priorities in what you're trying to do. Like, for example, for us for Sunday, we're trying to get lost people saved. And so it's also important to know where you are. It's important to know regionally what that looks like. So like for us, getting lost people saved for us is we will unapologetically say this as a church, that we're not trying to like keep attendance as the people who are coming every week just to come every week. Like, we're not going to do things that are making the people who are there every week comfortable. We're doing the things that are going to get lost people in the door, get them saved, and then get them spreading the good news, right? So
Yeah.
we'll kind of have an eye into technology, an eye into what's happening, what's new, how we can grab people's attention, but still do it in a very subtle way where we're not trying to be like, you know, a rock and roll show with, you know, smoke and mirrors and lights and all that good kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's
For sure.
That's great, Jeremiah.
I think the thing for us is like Highlands is, for most churches, very advanced in what we do. But in terms of churches our size, we are for sure more timid and don't go as crazy on especially the lighting side of things, because we have like a very particular set that like we try to live within to create the distraction free environment that Pastor Chris strives for, of like we're not strobing on a Sunday, just because most people around here deep in the South aren't used to having moving lights and stuff like that, so it freaks them out and they don't enjoy it. But I think for us, like we've designed our system to work really well based upon what we can do. And like even between, like, you can tell whenever I'm running lights versus when Griffin run lights, because Griffin's for sure pushes the envelope more than I do, where I ran lights even further back in Highlands history whenever you couldn't get by with some of the stuff that you do now. So it's so much different.
It's always funny. Jeremiah's been the Grants Mill guy way longer than I have, but it just, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, that's sweet. That kind of brings me actually to my next point here, because it is a pretty important topic here, which is like, obviously you guys do, you know, whether it be Griffin or Jeremiah or, you know, Sterling, whatever, right? Who's a part of it, you guys bring a killer experience. I don't know how else to say it. You guys do a really, really good job. And if you don't hear that enough, well, let me tell you, you guys do a killer job. One thing I wanted to talk about, or at least ask you guys before I hand it back to Chris here, is how do you guys get from, let's take away like Easter, right? Let's take away the holidays, Easter, Christmas, all the stuff, right? You guys decide that, okay, you're going to do, you know, we just saw on Highlands Production on Instagram that you guys did a set change a couple months ago, and you kind of did a behind the scenes look at that and a look at all that goes into it. Tell me how it goes from an initial design to the completed look on stage. Like, how are we getting from point A to point B? It's probably like point A to point E with B, C, D in between. I'm assuming there are quite a few steps to get there. So I'm okay with anyone answering this, but I would love to know that, like, you know, how long does it take to pull something like that off? Who's involved in it? You know, where, how do we get from a design perspective? Let's say people don't have as many resources as you guys do. What are some ways that we can give them some advice to pull something like this off? Let's say on a smaller scale or whatever? What are some points that allow that design to become a reality?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I mean, from the birth of the design. So, kind of the way we're set up is a guy named Brian on staff who actually used to be one of the LDs. Jeremiah worked for him for a long time. He's very much, his brain very much is thinking in the world that we're in every day. So it's not somebody like outside of our department kind of looking in. It's kind of like somebody who has been where we are, but has now kind of moved on to do something else for the organization. His brain's kind of already thinking through some of those things that we're thinking through every day. So he is kind of tasked with constantly just dreaming stage designs. I talk with him a lot about, where he gets designs just from random things, architecture, something he sees on TV. He's able to kind of have that creative. He's on our creative staff now. So he's able to kind of have that headspace, in my opinion, to where he can dream in a way that sometimes we can't, like the three of us, where we're kind of the ones pulling stuff off every week. Not that we don't have the ability, just that we're kind of in the trenches, so to speak, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so I always kind of feel like he's able to kind of have that creative headspace to just kind of be dreaming and coming up with ideas. And so he'll come up with ideas of stage designs. This is stage design 37, the one that we're on right now. We actually number them. We do LED and then a number. That's just kind of our system. So we're on LED 37. And so, but there's probably been, 100 total that have never happened. 37 have made it to the camera. And so he'll kind of dream up an idea, then he'll pull in the Jeremiah and the Sterling and the me and some of the other guys on the broadcast team, specifically at the main campus is kind of what I'm talking about right now. And he will kind of run an idea by us, almost kind of pitch an idea to us, and we'll kind of help him think through, like, hey, Jeremiah will be like, hey, remember that air duct messed us up last time, so that point's not going to be right. Or Sterling will be like, hey, that was a weird seam on camera last time, so let's not put another LED seam right there. We'll kind of now do a trade-off. He was dreaming. Now we'll kind of tell him like hey, we did it this last weekend, and here's what wasn't great about what it is right now. And so that's where we'll really start to have very open communication, collab. And we use Vectorworks, which is a design software. What's cool about Vectorworks is it's got a project sharing system. So you can do, this is kind of a little more advanced, but you can do project designs with real-time updates with multiple people in a file. So like I can be in the file, Jeremiah can be in the file, Adam, our LED guru can be in the file, and Brian can be in the file all at the same time, making updates almost like we're having a conversation, but we're doing it through the design in real time. And so from there, there will normally be a span of period. Maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, where we'll kind of tweak the design and play with it and kind of have a back and forth between, what could work. And, if we want to try something new, like with this stage design, Brian had been dreaming up LED ceilings, just basically a flown LED wall that's, over the stage looking down on people. He had dreamed that up for several stage designs, but he had kind of given it to us as a, can we even do this? So we start talking to manufacturers, talking to companies, finding out, like, is it possible? Can we do it safely? Things like that. So that's kind of where the rubber will meet the road, is with us, and we'll kind of start to take the idea and make it realistic. And then from there, we will spend a week doing a stage change at the main campus. So our flow that we've kind of found that works well is Sunday evening after our last service. We will normally tear everything out, and that's staff, maybe some like high-level volunteers, and that kind of ties back into like what Sterling was talking about. What are ways we keep volunteers engaged and involved? Is sometimes if we'll have like 2 or 3 volunteers who have been like killing it, they've been showing up, they've been on time, and they've been killing it even like specifically in technology in their area. Sometimes we'll like bring 2 or 3 of them in and be like, hey, check this out. This is super cool. And so Sunday night, we'll kind of tear everything out. By tear out, I mean every lighting truss comes down, every light gets all the DMX unplugged from it, every truss gets stripped. Every LED panel gets put in its case, and we'll go back to zero. And then from there, Jeremiah kind of leads up the rigging, the structure side of things. We bring in a local insured company to rig new points for us for whatever stage design we're trying to accomplish next. And they'll come in and do that and basically have us motors just hanging in the air. And then from then we kind of switch gears again, and it's back to just us, where we'll physically hang truss, attach LED walls to truss, attach lights to truss, to pipes, to whatever. and then we'll do that sort of like a Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday for us is always like a, hey, let's have everything working on Wednesday. And Thursday we'll do what we just call content checks, where we will just get whatever the new art for that weekend is that matches the new LED wall. We'll put it on camera so that we know exactly what it's going to look like, because it would be ill-advised, in my opinion, to go Sunday not knowing exactly what it's going to look like, having an idea but not knowing what it's going to look like. So we'll kind of put it to the test on Thursday. Our creative team will come down and see if they want to make any adjustments and things like that, and then there you have it. We have a new stage design.
That's awesome. That's sweet, and you guys do a really good job doing that. I think everybody appreciates and kind of understands, like, there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot that needs to be done, and coordinating everything and having that test on Thursday, just to make sure everybody's got their stamp where we can all co-sign on this, and this will be the foreseeable future. So we've got a couple more questions. I'm going to hand it back to Chris, so he can kind of host those. But yeah, thanks for answering those, guys.
Yeah, guys, let's keep chewing through these. That's what I was trying to say. English, it's easy for me. Man, yeah, the chat is lighting up. We've got all kinds of questions popping in here. Let's hit this one here from this is another one from Tristan asking about satellite campus lighting. Is that something that's pre-programmed? So I'm guessing he means like cue lists, or is that kind of busked and more done on the fly for the satellite locations? And I'd like to know, how's it done at Central? How's it done at Grants Mill?
Jeremiah, you want to kind of take that?
Yeah, I'll take it. So for our campuses and for Central, Griffin picks our content for the weekend for our jump backs, and he picks accenting colors for that. And then that gets sent out through Slack. And then our campus will actually program the typically 3 songs for us, and then an offering song at the end of service. They will program that into their cue stack. And it's basically a pre-built stack that has all of their cues, and they're just really merging it into song 1, 2, 3, and an offering song for the end. And that's how it works there. And then all their effects run on the fly. So we don't have any pre-built effects. So that way, if something happens, or if a song changes, or if they feel like running a flow different than how we do at Grants Mill, then we just change that and they can do whatever. At Central, which is Grants Mill for us, broadcast location, we run pretty similar. Either me or Griffin will get here Sunday morning, program out the colors so it looks the same if we do a merge. And then our effects are also around on the fly, but we typically can do a little bit more stuff here at Grants Mill and get by with a little bit more than campuses typically can, in terms of movement and stuff like that we don't offer to all of our campuses. So that's typically how it's done for us.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Great. Okay, here's a good one. Actually, this is great. Kind of dovetails off of that. James Cooper up at Father's house up in Vacaville. Man, guys, we're coast to coast here today. In fact, actually, first behind the production live stream, and we're international, boys. We have
We've
Suede.
made it.
We have Suede from South Africa joining us today, guys. We
Yes.
hopped the pond. So, James, what's up, man? So good to see you on here. What is your pre-service brief and post-service debrief look like, and what level of detail do you get into with those?
So pre-COVID, we met as like a big worship and production team. Just everybody in a room going over everything. And we'd get a little more detailed there. We would have someone who would lead the meeting, and they'd go over, what song we were going to sing, who is leading it, what key it was in, all that jazz. But ever since COVID, we just meet as 2 separate teams now, because we had one Sunday where there's someone in the green room that had been exposed, and we decided, hey, it would be really bad if all of us got it one Sunday. So we started meeting as 2 separate teams. And so now when I lead those pre-service meetings, like, we don't need to go over things like what key the first song is in, because that doesn't matter for video for the most part. I don't know of a single time it's ever mattered. So I'll just go over what songs we've got, who's leading them, where on stage they are, as well as like any details of like, if we want to shoot one song a little different, like maybe our cameras that are straight on, if we want to cross shoot them, might give details like that, or if there's like this past Sunday, we're doing some pretty major renovations to the stage right now. And there's a lot of exposed concrete. So this last Sunday, we had the challenge of making sure none of that exposed concrete made it on the camera. So I just had to explain the parameters in which we had to shoot things to the team this Sunday. So we hit the necessary details, but we don't bore them to death with the details.
Sure, makes sense. Give them what they need to know to get through the weekend, right? Very cool. All right. This is a great one from Chris here. He had asked about the stage design process work. Apparently, they tend to have a struggle with too many hands in the pot sometimes. So what advice and recommendation would you give for kind of streamlining that process a little bit to help make that run smoother?
I removed myself from the process, and I only am responsible for ordering food, so this is a silly answer.
There you go.
Griffin and Jeremiah handle way more of it than I do. So I'll speak into.
Honestly, I don't even step into it until the design's finalized from what they want the wall to look like and anything like that. And I step in and speak into the rigging side of it of, hey, if we're trying to fly walls as a ceiling, we're going to have to buy X products and put a lot more safety factors into play than just flying a wall 100% flat on a stage. So that's all that I really do for it. Griffin and Brian really do most of the work, so I'll let him take the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've just I think you got to learn a system where you got to learn
muted.
each other's. No, I'm not.
I can hear him.
Sterling. We just kind of have to find a system to you got to play off people's strengths. So what I mean by that is I don't think anybody would probably die if I handled the rigging of how to fly an LED wall ceiling, but Jeremiah can make it a lot safer, and Jeremiah can make it make a lot more sense and be easier, more streamlined. So I guess in a kind of a roundabout answer to Chris's question, I would say you've got to learn how people think and how people operate and let different people play off their strengths. So for me, I'm kind of more on the front end, helping Brian with design and patching fixtures and getting them in the show file and things like that. And then it kind of moves from there to a Jeremiah, where a Jeremiah is making sure it's safe, making sure it makes sense, making sure that we can do it, that we have all the gear we need. And then it kind of moves from there to a Sterling and to an Adam, where Adam's building mapping of the wall and actually, physically making a new LED wall work together. And then it's moving to a Sterling, where it's integrating it into the weekend, integrating it into the whole system, making sure everything's working, playing video content on it, all that kind of stuff. So it's okay to have, we've kind of taken on the approach of it's okay to have more help at the beginning when you're more in a tear down phase of a stage design. But we have drastically reduced how many people are around. Really, it's just us now who are around when we're putting something in, because we've found, with more people equals more speed, and more speed on loading something in sometimes isn't always the best. Things will get missed, things will get overlooked. Speed is nice on a load out, so to speak, when you're kind of tearing everything out so that you can, get home and get into bed before you got to, do something new the next day. But for loading in, we've kind of learned to, and it's a hard conversation to have, but at the end of the day, we were just kind of hey, there's been a system of a lot of people around the entire time. We're just going to kind of, we're going to filter things down so that we can take things a little slower. And you handle that conversation with grace, but I would say that, there's ways where you can kind of slow things down with less people. So, Chris's question being struggle with too many hands in the pot, you at some point, I guess, kind of got to put the lid on the pot in a loving way and be like, all right, we're going to have to slow things down and kind of take it a thing at a time and a person at a time.
Great advice. Cool. Let's see. We got another one here. Daryl Fain has a great question about lighting cues. Do you ever automate your lighting cues or lyrics, or is that always a human pushing a button to make that happen? Griff, I know you mentioned SMPTE earlier. I know you guys do use some time code, but how does that play into lighting and lyrics? Yeah,
so for us, on a normal Sunday, it's pretty much never. Kind kind of a normal Sunday, the flow for a normal Sunday is that we're very open to changing maybe a song if a song doesn't feel right and set. If, maybe even there's kind of more of a spirit-led moment in between two songs that's unplanned, we kind of keep ourselves open to the ability to have more maneuverability and more ability to shift on a Sunday. When we get into things like Christmas and Easter, pretty much all campuses at this point are running like SMPTE locked video content, whether it's on projector screens, whether it's an LED wall at some of our campuses, like at Grants Mill, and then from a lighting standpoint, that's kind of a tech gear thing more than it's a people thing. At Grants Mill, we're set up really easily to run time code. So for at this point, like a Christmas or an Easter, pretty much the whole experience from start to finish is time code, so that it's replicable from service to service, for camera, for broadcast, for things like that. At campuses, it's not going to always be a no, and we're not going to always not do it. But currently, kind of the way systems are set up, it's harder for us to ingest SMPTE into a lighting console currently. But we've actually been making steps kind of as a team to work toward that goal of be able to create like a local SMPTE timecode show that we can send out to some campuses for like Christmas, and they're really just kind of loading something and locking it to some SMPTE.
Gotcha. Very cool. Okay. Awesome. Let's see. Oh, here, Sterling, this is going to be a great one to tee up for you. James here from Father's House in Vacaville again. Do you guys have cam ops that cross train on all cameras, or do you have experts on each one? I'm guessing he's meaning, between like a jib, steady cam, that kind of stuff. How many different kinds of operator positions do you guys have?
We have 3 different operator positions. So we've got our normal stick cams. We've got a Dana Dolly, and then we've got a jib. And yeah, they do cross train. Not everyone does. It's just kind of when people show interest or wanting to take their next step, they might, ask if they can start to learn dolly, start to learn jib, start to learn sticks, whatever they're not already doing. So we're always open to cross training.
Nice. Okay, cool. Okay. Hector has asked a great question here, and I don't want to dive into it too much because I know we've had a conversation about having your LED expert and your Resolume expert come on a future episode of BTP here. But he's asking about the software that you guys use for weekly production, ProPresenter, Resolume, Ableton. So what are the tools that you guys are reaching for across all of those different areas to pull off a Sunday?
We use all 3 of those.
We use all 3.
The band uses Ableton to run the tracks. Production uses Resolume to put jump backs on the LED wall, and we use ProPresenter to put lyrics and graphics everywhere. So, like you said, just a super short answer.
So there you go, Hector. You hit all of them. Great. So cool. Well, guys, that is bringing us actually past the top of the hour. I appreciate your time so very much today. So, guys who are watching live, go ahead and drop a thumbs up or a heart here. Show the guys from Highlands some love here. Let them know you appreciated them being with us today. Guys, thank you so much for your time. We really, really do appreciate it. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. All right. Well, as we wrap it up here, as promised at the top of the broadcast here, I wanted to tell you guys about the other events that we have coming up here throughout the rest of the year. Again, we love doing events. We love getting to connect with you, and getting to do that in person is looking like it's going to be more and more of a realistic thing here as we move on into the year. So I'm going to lead out with another virtual event. So keep an eye out on your calendar. Tuesday, May 18th is going to be the next Behind the Production right here on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching it. Keep an eye out for more info on that. We are super, super excited about the ministries that we're lining up for that one. And we know it's just going to be a great, great hour, and tons of value is going to be added, and great ideas for everybody who attends that one. We're going to do another one July 13th, middle of July. We'll have another Behind the Productions event. And then getting into the fall in September, we're going to be at the SALT conference this year in Nashville, Tennessee. Well, just outside of Nashville. We're going to be there for the week. If you're in the area or you're planning on attending the SALT conference, by all means, please come by, stop in, say hey to us. Then in October, we're going to be out at NAB. The NAB show's in Vegas this year. They've moved it from spring to fall. We're going to be there at the NAB show. October 27th, we're going to be down in Orlando for InfoComm. Then November 19th is LDI back in Vegas, and our whole team's going to be out there for that one. And then right after Thanksgiving, we're going to have another Behind the Production there November 30th. And then in December, we're all going to collapse from running around the country so much and leave everybody alone so you guys can go do your Christmas productions at your local churches there. So again, I do want to hit this again for the Highlands guys. They love their hearts. They're serious about getting connected in community with everybody. So by all means, please go connect with them on social media. You can find them at Highlands Production. And then we would love to connect with you guys as well. You can follow us on all social platforms at E2I Design, or just drop us a note. You can drop us a note here at hello@e2idesign.com. Jordan, man, I've had a blast today. How are you?
This was so much fun.
Wasn't it? This is great.
This was this is like episode 1, season 1, episode 1. We're getting into it. We got, our good friends. Guys, I can't really explain this enough. When we work with ministries, we're extremely strategic in working with them because we ultimately want a ministry that's like-minded. And when we are about education, empowering, and inspiring other people, we look for ministries who do the same thing, which is why we can call Church of the Highlands our close friends. I mean, we just respect these guys so much in their hearts for ministry, not only what they're doing at Church of the Highlands, but I mean, I've been contacted by multiple people on their team that have said, listen, if there's a way that I can connect with someone or they want to reach out to me or ask questions, please give them my information, which queued us up really, really well for this first episode of Behind the Production. So I just can't thank you guys enough. Thank you for being here. Thanks for allowing us to host this and being a part of it. It's been extremely fun, and we're just excited to continue this on and hope to add value to you guys along the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for spending the hour with us this afternoon, guys, and we will look forward to seeing you on May 11th for the next BTP. Have a great day. We'll see you.